Okay, so now we're gonna talk about kind of tweaking your sail before you get out on the water. First thing I wanna point out is the foot of your sail. And the foot of your sail is this bottom area right here. Okay, this is the foot. And I want you guys to notice how tight the foot is. Now this is an old sail, so we'll give it a little bit of a break, but this wrinkle right here means to me that this outhaul is too tight. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna pull this forward off the cleat, and then I'm gonna push with my hand right here and just give it a little bit of slack. Now, just like with the mast, you kind of see this is crinkling up. This is for a few reasons. This is too tight, so we're gonna have to loosen that. But don't forget, you can just individually push each sail tie. Now, these aren't the greatest sail ties in the world. If you have good sail ties, things will be more smooth. So very important is your corner tie here, and this is called your clew. So for those of you who go on to sail bigger boats, this will be called the clew. And we want this very tight for now. So I already have it on tight. I'm gonna leave it like that. But as you guys saw, this is way too tight for the foot of our sail. We want the foot of our sail ties to be about a pinky's width off the boom. So let me see if I can get this. And Aiden, I'm just gonna have you come close for a second. I wanna show everybody a little bit of a trick to getting square knots undone, because sometimes it can be tight. If you can see, there's one part of the square knot that's going over the top, kind of transverse right here, and then you have two loops. So the way we get a tight square knot undone is we pull the tail that's under the transverse part right here away, and it'll pop the knot open, and then you can loosen it with your fingers. Now, another trick is, rather than untying the entire sail tie and retying, you can just kind of loosen with your fingers the tails, loosen the top knot, and then you grab the bottom knot right here with your fingers and you kind of pull through, and that way you can just slowly loosen the knot. And this sail tie is always a little tricky because depending on where your bridle hooks are, it can be in the way. So I'm going to loosen it a little more. And actually what I would say is, if you're having trouble with your sail coming over, some people find it helpful to tie it over the outhaul. So just to show that. And all of our sail ties should be doubled at all times, like this. Okay, sometimes putting it over the outhaul is more helpful. It's up to you. And you can also consult the Champs kids, who have far more opinions than I do at this point about this. Okay, so now we're gonna move down the line. I've loosened the outhaul as I showed you. There's still this, but we can loosen a little more to try to get rid of that, but this sail is also just very blown out. So now we're gonna look at the rest of the sail ties, and I'm kind of going down the line, and I see, what are some things I see? This is too tight. This is probably too loose, and look how loose this sail tie is. This is a problem that a lot of you have. Your sail ties, you're not tightening them. You get them in a spot and then you never look at them again, and this is gonna come undone. Moving to the next sail tie, again, too tight. This one's actually probably just right. And then this one's just right, but again, look, the sail tie is loose. So let's come back. We already adjusted the sail tie over the outhaul. I'm gonna loosen this one, and I don't know if you can tell, but this is 3 times around. You should not need to wrap your sail ties 3 times around. So I am going to loosen this. And something you'll find is that if you're using club spars that you've never used before, that people lock the tails of the square knot, and I can show you how to do that later. But the reality is, if you have good sail ties, the black and gold ones, you should never need to do that because they don't slip. Okay, so I'm just getting this undone. There we go. Some of them are harder than others. If you don't wash your boat down, you're gonna have salty, hard to get undone knots. All right, so remember, you got your 2 tails, you've got this doubled through, and we want it about a pinky's width from the boom. So we're gonna go left over right, okay? and then right over left, or the other way, it's up to you. That's too tight, so I'm going to do the trick I showed you earlier, which is just loosen the top like so, and then pull the bottom part of the knot, and bam, you're in. And the trick I was telling you about that some people do, and I wouldn't really consider it a trick, but something you do when you don't have adequate sail ties, is you can loop the tails around and just lock them with a hitch. Okay, that's something people do when their sail ties come undone easily. All right, so now let's look at this sail tie. And you remember I said this was too loose. So I might just tighten this. Actually, I'm not sure what's going on. So I'm gonna retie. And got a knot in here, that's not good. Left over right. I think that was too tight. And you'll get, parents and kids alike, you're gonna get better at this with time. I've been doing this since I was 6 years old, so it's like I could do it in my sleep. Don't beat yourself up if you're having trouble, especially as a little guy. All right, that was around 3 times. We want to make it around 2 times. Left over right, right over left. Okay. Tails on both of these are too long, but we'll just leave it for now so we can keep moving. And then remember, guys, tighten those sail ties, okay? All right, so now let's talk about our corner ties right here. A lot of people talk about those a lot. So Aiden, if you want to kind of shoot through here, this is too loose, guys, okay? Unless it's light breeze, this is too loose. So how can we get this sail tie tighter? This is what I would recommend. You just hit the boom up like that. Now you've got tons of slack here. And we're losing our sail, which is fine. Okay, first of all, this sail tie, I don't know what's going on here, but I'm gonna fix that. Getting some wind right now. Okay. So, I'm gonna hit the boom up. That makes it much easier to get this on. Nice and tight. Now we can come back down. I'm gonna leave this for now. I might want you to get that tighter. Depends on how windy it is. So, let's talk about getting the main sheet on. All right, so earlier on, you'd already undone your main sheet. So here it is. This main sheet is twisted. And I wanna tell you a really nifty trick to quickly untangle your main sheet. So, if we look down at where the blocks are right here, you'll notice that we have the part we're gonna pull on, and then we're gonna have, this is an outside main sheet, and this is an outside, and then this is our middle, okay? So you have to start down here so you know what's outside and what's middle. And all you're gonna do is grab the outside ones, follow them up, and pull, and every single time it'll come undone, okay? Greatest trick I ever learned when I was about 11 years old. So that's how you get your main sheet untangled. So I'm gonna clip this on just so I can show you. And something I don't want you to do when your boat is on the dock is what I'm about to do, because the boat can get blown over. I'm just gonna wrap this, keep the sail pulled in. Okay, so now your main sheet's on. This is your bridle, okay? Your main sheet is attached to your bridle. You should have some sort of retaining line right here. But really the point of this line is not to hold the bridle up. It should be just to, if this fails, to hold on to it, because what happens is you can bend the boom if there's too much pressure on this. But we'll talk about that at a later time. This is our vang. Vang's very important, okay? This is too loose, so I'm gonna put some vang on. Something I don't wanna see, which a lot of you have developed a habit of doing, is where you're cranking your main sheet like this, okay? And this is something you've seen me do for you out on the water, and then getting your vang in. And then you're leaving your boat on the dock with a really tight vang. Thankfully this vang's not that great, so it came undone. But I don't want to see you wailing on your main sheet to get this ready to go, because you don't know where we're going out on the water until I tell you. So that's your vang. And then I want to talk about the preventer line, okay? So kind of hard to talk about this because we don't have the correct mast. But the point of the preventer is to adjust how low or high, you have to have your vang off, low or high your gooseneck is. And this is going to affect how loose or tight your luff is. And the luff is the front part of the sail. So for now, I'm just going to kind of have it at medium. That's pretty medium. And what you do is you twist, you put twists on. And it's definitely going to take a couple weeks to know how long this line should be, because what you don't want to be doing is what I'm doing right now. And that is putting a ton of twists just to take the tension out of everything, okay? But the reason this is important is because if you don't have this on, no matter how much vang you put on, you're not going to, along with your sprint holding the sail up, your vang holding the sail down, and this holding this in place, if you don't have this on, your vang's not going to work. And that's something we'll talk about in a few weeks. Lastly, now we can look at the sails on our mast. And remember, what do we want? We want to go like this and just see the light through. And I would argue that this sail tie is good, borderline if it was light breeze out. Again, same with this sail, a little tight, but if it's breezy out, it's okay. Something you have to watch out for is that this sail tie can get caught here. So just watch out. Same with this, little tight, but it's okay. And then that's same with this. And then remember, we already checked the top two sail ties when we had it on the ground. That way we don't have to touch that again. So if we look, our sail's as high as it can go, and it's not being popped off the top, which means we had enough diagonal sail tie on. Now, some of you might be like, why is this doing this? It's a blown out sail, and we also have our luff a little tight, so I just lifted our gooseneck. And again, in class, we're gonna learn how to adjust the preventer line, and maybe I'll make a video on that at a later time. Last thing I wanna talk about, guys, is your mast tie down and your mast collar, for those of you who have one. So, mast tie down. I do not want you to do this until the boat is about to go in the water, because what happens to a lot of you is your main sheets aren't on, and you tie this on, and then I'll show you what happens. So a lot of you, you'll tie it on, which I'm really happy that you did. However, if your main sheet's not on, this is what happens to a lot of you. This goes, the sail turns, and then it pulls the mast tie down. And then you can either snap the mast tie down or just the sail's not working. So please do yourself a favor and do not put your mast tie down on until right before you launch and your sail's exactly where you want it. And then lastly, for those of you who have a mast tie down, I'm not sure how Aiden's gonna do this, but when we put our mast collar on, we cannot put it on, let me just get this straightened away. Do not put it on right here, guys, okay? That's not gonna help us, because if I put this on here, watch what happens. And let's say I don't have a mast tie down, okay? Let's say I don't have a mast tie down or it fails. If I flip over, look what's gonna happen. This is gonna come out, and this is no longer in the mast cup. So, please make sure you get the mast collar all the way up underneath, okay? That way, if you flip, which hopefully none of you will, did it just come undone?
No.
Okay. It won't come out. And again, guys, this is a club boat, and who knows how old this mast collar is, but this is why you want to own your own boat, because then you don't have these technical difficulties. Okay, so that is that.